G'day, and welcome back to the shop. It's been a while since I've done a videos, so I thought I'd better get back into it. And to start off the year, I thought I'd do an updated shop tour and to show you what I actually have been doing whilst I haven't been doing videos, but I have actually been doing a few things in the shop. So that being said, on with the tour. I think the best way of doing this is actually just work in a clockwise rotation around the workshop. And now my workshop is, well, let's say 10 meters full length and maybe 3 meters, 3.8 meters that way. However, I have to work around house piles that are scattered throughout because I am in a basement, and the basement was not designed when they built this place. They didn't think, hey, that becomes a usable space. They just put the house piles wherever they needed to put the house piles. I could get rid of these house piles, but I would have to put in like a big I-beam, and then I'd be knocking my snoggin, which would probably knock some sense into me. As you come in, there's the door, just a regular door. And just to the right is my engineer's lathe. Now that's sitting on the bench that when I first moved into the place I made, and which is really sturdy. That is where my wood turning lathe used to be. It is basically the only spot that I could fit. However, I still have my wood turning lathe, but some people are not going to be happy when they see where it is at the moment. In behind it is my pegboard. That actually hasn't changed. It's just the same tools that are on there, probably from the last time. I do want to move some of the tools that are on it, but we'll worry about that another day. And up on the shelf here, I've got cutting compound, some WD-40, some oils, and a few bits and pieces for tools and all the rest of it. Below the lathe is the shelving unit I put in the first lockdown, I think it was. It hasn't changed. It's still usable, still like it. I'm glad I put it in. It's just holding the bits and pieces for the table saw. So there's push sticks here. There's zero clearance inserts, plus the original insert, the original miter gauge. And the feather board. Now this section here is mainly for all the tools and bits and pieces for the lathe. And on the bottom shelf I've got a couple of sleds plus some offcuts of metal that I use on the lathe. And then just next to it in that section I have a spray gun. I don't actually like that spray gun. When you stop spraying, it seems to leak, and I don't know why. There is laser levels, tools for the wood turning lathe, stands for the lights, the original lights that I've got hanging up around the shop, the LED ones. They're actually just work lights I use. And what else is in there? Some brackets and bits and pieces. So moving around, my drill press. It's a tool shed drill press with the milling bed. It's an okay drill press. I don't like very hard to wind up and wind down, so I basically don't. Theoretically should have got just a standard drill press, but this one looked interesting and it wasn't that expensive. Just to the left of the drill press, I've got all my drill bits. Well, most of my drill bits that I use on the drill press. It's not all the drill pieces within reach of the drill press. Now that used to be on the right, hanging on the side, so I've actually moved it up now into a better spot. Below, it's just a cupboard that's a throw-all, end-all cupboard, and yeah, if I can't find a place to put something, that's where it ends up. To the side of the drill press, which is where I used to have the shelving unit that holds the drill bits, is now holding my jointer thickness for planer combo. It's in a usable space. I can actually do quite a long feed through if I needed to. I don't use the thicknesser. I actually have never used the thicknesser on this. I bought it mainly for the jointer because I do have the DeWalt thicknesser. I've still got my $6 grinder, and behind the drill press I've got different blades for the saw, table saw. Very deceiving how much of a smaller space I do actually have. And of course right in the middle of that area that you've just seen is house pile. There's another house pile right here, So what I decided right back is to actually put a wee partition in there. As you can see, there's a plug also on that, but it's also a double-sided plug. On the other side, there's a matching power point. That brings us down into the main area of the workshop. Bandsaw, it's on wheels. Being a small workshop, having it on wheels helps, but being as small as this workshop, got nowhere really to move it. However, there is a reason why I put these on wheels, because I do just wheel it out of the way so that I can access the router table, and or if I want to re-angle it so that I can cut a longer piece or something. It is the Toolshed 14-inch, or 13.5-inch I think it actually is. It's an okay bandsaw for what it is. I've had it for now maybe 8 years, 9 years, and the only thing that's gone wrong with it is the starter capacitor died on it. I've replaced that and it all goes fine. It's been upgraded with the Craig fence, and I've also got the Craig miter gauge for it. I don't use the miter gauge that often. In behind there I've got my levels just hanging up there. In behind the bandsaw, just there, is my dust extraction. That only gets connected to the bandsaw and the router table. At the moment I've got to get a new hose. I'm going to have to make myself a new port for it. Not that good, to be fair. It hasn't got enough power to suck. It sucks at being a dust extractor. Router table, and that's just the Carbotech router table with the Carbotech router lift. It has the Triton one, I'm not sure if it's the 3 horsepower or the 2.4 horsepower or whatever it was router in it. I can't remember. It was one of the big boys. When it's not in use, I take the fence off and store it over in a corner, and I put a sheet of ply over it, and it becomes another bench. And the reason why I've got the bandsaw on wheels is so that I can still stand in front of it quite easily. But when I'm using the bandsaw is actually out further, if that makes sense. Below is the DeWalt planer that I've got. At the moment, raise the shelf up to make it easier to get the planer out and put back in. At the moment, it's being so heavy, it's actually quite an annoyance getting it out. For planing, I just sit it up on top of the router and feed it through. I cannot complain. The only complaint I've got about it is it's so heavy. Beside is my substance shelf. Now I say substance shelf because it's got paints, glues, stains, it's got slacks, varnishes and oils, and even below it it's got house paint and oil for the motorbikes. And behind that you can just see the start of my tool wall, and the sanders up there. It's just all hung on the French cleat. I have to rearrange a few things or make more holders. The 2 Ryobi sanders and Craig jig, etc. up the top there is sitting on a shelf made for the French cleat, which I no longer use the shelf what I originally built it for. So I want to make separate holders for the 3 sanders are up there, and maybe even the one for the Craig jig. The yellow thing there is also a pocket hole jig. I don't use it. I prefer the Craig. You can actually see now one of the other house piles, and I'll actually bring you back, and you can actually now see both house piles in the main workbench. That's the main one there. I would love to get rid of those 2, but it means putting an I-beam across there, and it's spanning such a long space. I'll hit my noggin on it. So the camera's now just sitting on the main workbench, and you can see the sanders are just there. This is my tool cabinet. It used to be that blue one. I donated that to a friend. I just gave it to him. This is a much better tool cabinet, but it's kind of laid out the same. Most people normally ask what's in it. It's just my normal mechanical tools. So I've got my sockets, and I've got jewelers, screwdrivers and bits and pieces. This is my end-all throw-all drawer. Well, one of the end-all throw-all drawers. There's knives, blades, spare leads, Allen keys or Allen wrenches, fret files. I use these files here for when I'm doing scroll sawing. Scroll saw blades, jigsaw blades, saber saw blade, the only one that actually fits in there. tap and die first end-all throw drawer. What have we got in here? We've got scraper, we've got flush cut saw, part of the tap and die set that doesn't fit in there. There was a rubber glove there somewhere. Tie downs, which is actually off the motorbike. Spare padlock, gloves, a hole punch, which realistically should be up in here, vice grips, and crescents, or what do you call it? What do the Americans call it? Adjustable wrenches, screwdrivers, Phillips, flathead, spanners, pliers, monkey grips, side cutters, needle nose and standard pliers, and last but not least, the last end-all throw drawer, French curves, I don't know what you call those things, the shaper gauge or whatever they're called, something like that, and you just want a shape and you mark around it. That's an okay one. I want to actually make one myself. A small compass set and various different gauges, I guess. Brains having a brain fart. Engineer square, a awl, and on this side is my Incras, the true squares, or whatever they call them, the true 90, Incra 5" and 7" true 45, 5" 7", and the different rollers. I do like these. They are very accurate, and you just draw your marking. There'll be holes that they've got, gives you exact measurement. Then on the behind it, there's more spanners, drill bits that go with this. So I've always got drill bits available. If it's haven't got, then I'll go around to the drill press. Drill holder. That's the bits for the impact driver. Batteries. Not all the batteries are there. Have the impact wrench, drill, and impact driver. And unfortunately, AEG didn't have the staple gun. No fitty fit. And all I'm doing is just hanging that using the belt hook. It just hangs on the handle of the tool chest. And on the other side, I'm doing exactly the same with the brad nailer. It just hangs on the handle on the side. Okay, moving around. This shelf is basically just fastenings. So I've got my DA brads, staples for the staple guns, my C1 series brads, glue sticks, and then there's up the top shelf there's also a few spare bits and pieces, like there's oil for the pneumatic air gun, and needed somewhere to put the Craig vice thing and whatever this is. Oh, it's a plate for a router. Then underneath that is all my tape measures. What normally happens is when I do a job, the tape measures will end up getting spread out throughout the whole shop, and they'll stay there for the job. However, at the end of the day, or at the end of the job, or the end of the project, they'll all end up back on this shelf. And below that is my true square 90-degree angle jigs or clamps holders. I use these quite regularly. Very simple to make. I was actually going to buy a set, but I don't think I will. I think I'll just keep these ones. Below the drill holder, I've got my air hoses and a bit of a junk corner. My air hoses aren't always attached, but if I want to run a line outside, I don't have to move the compressor. I can just run it from the compressor to outside. That brings us to the pegboard. So we've got my planes, hand planes down here, markers, other bits and pieces. To be honest, I'm not really a big fan of pegboards now. It just seems to collect junk because nowhere else to store it. Like I got the two glue guns. I don't actually know why I've got two glue guns. I don't know. I don't. I'm not a big fan of pegboard, but I'm not going to get rid of it, and I'm not going to change. So I've now got a bench in behind me, which is now usable. I don't use it as a workbench. I use it as a storage bench. When I'm doing a project and I need, say, a bolt, so I can grab the part that I want, and all I have to do is turn around and use that part on the project, since you're on the main workbench, and it's within, I don't even have to take a step, I just spin around. So I've got battery chargers, both AEG, I've got more, there's like 1, 2, 3 other battery chargers, but that's the main one I use. The Hitachi battery charger for the nail gun. Below is my main small parts storage. I do love these containers. I've marked or named every single one that's got something in it. Even though some of the 1 or 2 of them might say random, and random means it's usually steampunk parts. But dowel, if I wanted some dowel, it's also dowel and biscuits, but that's all the different dowels, and also the dowel markers, and including shelf pins. So I've named them all. So below my storage holders is 3 more cubbies, and these cubbies are just junk collectors. I don't really know where to put some of the stuff at the moment. These cubbies have actually got them out of the way. So moving around from the pegboard, I've got my clamps. These are the main ones for small projects I use. And again, I just spin around and grab them. Quick clamps and standard clamps. I have more clamps down here, more corner clamps here. These are okay, they're not that great. I actually prefer using the ones I made, to be fair. They actually made me make the ones I've made, to be honest. There's more bits and pieces. This is the AEG Omni multi-tool bits and pieces. I just changed the head on it, so if I wanted a saber saw, I just changed the head, saber saw, another jigsaw, a 90-degree angle impact wrench and drill, which is bringing me to the compressor, which is just down there, which is again, it's within arm's reach of my workbench, which is you're sitting on at the moment. Luckily I built it strong enough, because that's a lot of weight sitting on there. All 3 people that watch these videos. Spinning around, the disc sander, belt sander combo. It's another tool shed one. That is literally a workhorse, so much that I've broken it a few times and repaired it a few times. And behind that is my rulers, 150mm, 300mm, 500mm, and then behind that a meter. Just above the sander I have my AEG circular saw, jigsaw, planer, belt sander, all the 18-volt ones. And above that there is another small parts collection. To the right is more clamps. Moving around, I've got my grinder and my multi-tool. That is the multi-tool that I changed the head out. At the moment it's got just a cutting bit on it. I just changed that head, and I'll put the saber saw head on, or the right angle drilling bit on, or even the jigsaw. Bobbin sander. This gets used quite a fair bit now for various things. It's just a sander. We all know how to sand. This is the first cubby corner. There's a video of how I did this wall in the cubby corner. It holds a scroll saw, which I love. And then behind it's got the Ryobi biscuit joiner, which I use every so often. Chisels. People ask, why is my chisels down here? I don't do a lot of chiseling. I find other ways to do it. But to be fair, it's 1-2 steps to get. That's how small my shop is. So that's where they get stored, out of the way. Underneath is just more junk. There's more wood storage. In the back there is more paint, basically. In the front here, I've got my AEG framing nailer, and then I've got the AEG multi-stack containers, small parts containers. Now, this is the part that's all new. All new. Before, this used to be all dirt. It is now a raised bed floating floor basically that is so solid it's not really floating, even though it is. I don't know how to explain that. I'll try and put up a few photos of me doing it, but it's all made out of pallet wood, including the ply, including the beams that are going across. So going in and around the cover corner, there's the chimney support that used to have the sticker cabinet. Sorry if you get a bit seasick, I am freehanding this. Right, so this is a new wall, and behind that wall is the miter saw. So there's the sticker cabinet, and I apologise to some of them that some of the stickers are now being hidden. However, I did think ahead, and most of the stickers that are on there, I got 2 or 3 stickers, so you'll probably see your sticker elsewhere. I have another small parts storage thingy in here, which is all going to get changed, and most of that's going to go into the new containers, and this will come small parts storage for the laser machine, for the pew pew. So the laptop is sitting on the mobile bench extender. However, I think it's going to stay up here, and I may adjust it so that it's fully permanent. I haven't got any job running at the moment. The X-Tool D1 laser. However, it's been upgraded with the 20 watt module. So when I first got it, it was the 10 watt module, and I've upgraded it to the 20 watt module. I also have the, if we look down here, slowly without making you seasick. If we look down here, I've got the extension bars, and the extension for the enclosure. Unfortunately, I'm not sure how I'm going to do this, because the extension bars make it twice as long, which comes out to about here. So as you can see, there's no room for the laptop. I'm still thinking how I'm going to work this in. This bench may go all the way across. However, I've got to be aware I've got a power point just over in the corner there, and I can't exactly move that one. Well, I sort of can, but not really. Yeah, it's a work in progress. I do have to do a little bit of cable management. I've kind of started to get it sort of not so much hickledy-pickledy. So we've got air assist, and we've got an exhaust. The exhaust is not 100% finished. It still blows it into the workshop or basement itself. I just need to get more hose so that I can route it so that it goes out of the house. We've got French cleats going around so that I can actually have shelves and whatever else I want to bring into here. At the moment, the only tool that's in here is my ruler. It's hanging on a magnet. I do have the chuck attachment for it so that I can do cups and anything round. I use Lightburn for my laser. I do use the software that comes with it called Laser Box from memory. I use that for very simple stuff. Most of the time I try and use Lightburn. If you're ever going to get into lasering, Lightburn is probably the go-to bit of software, really, to be fair. Just below the laser, going down, level 1, basement level, is the CNC. Now the CNC again, that's not its final position. The final position for the CNC is most likely going to be in that very first junk corner that you'll see. Hence why, yeah, that junk corner is going to be a mission. So this whole cubby corner is actually giving me extra space, extra storage, especially this wall here. It's giving me extra storage. That wall here, extra storage that I can hang stuff on. I haven't yet, but I will. Right round to being able to bring the CNC and laser down, which I didn't actually expect. But I'm able to store the CNC down here now instead of having it stored up in the office. There is a reason why I've got the laser down here, because there's a new machine coming. Here's something. Soldering iron. Okay soldering iron. Sharpener unit by Isoto. Don't buy it. It's a piece of crap. It's an utter piece of crap. Learn to do it by hand. Some of my viewers may recognise these. They are my original storage container holders, and I've had to recommission them because they all ended up buying more. However, to stop me buying more for the short term, the lower one I've turned into a adjustable shelving unit, so that I can just pull the shelf out and put it into a different area. It's actually working to put these out of the way, so it's a win. There'll be some people now that won't actually recognise where we are in the shop. You're back sitting on the workbench, and you can see the miter saw there, and you'll be going, well, normally you used to be able to see junk. I'll actually put you on the holder. A lot of the time that'll be the shot you will see me when I'm cutting on the miter saw, and I'll put a reference up of what it used to look like. I've got the TV set up so that I can see exactly what the computer is seeing, not as on it's a dual screen, but it's also showing it's repeating the laptop. Now the reason why I've got that is because if I'm doing a laser cut job, I can see what the laser's doing through light burn, or how many minutes I've got left. I don't actually have to go around to the laptop to see how many minutes are left. I still do go in there to check on the laser. You don't leave it unattended, but you can walk away from it and do other bits and pieces. I can just look up to the screen and see what's going on. I can also then just go, okay, I've finished that job, we've put some YouTube podcasts on. Or now below the TV, that's more French cleat, I've got my router bits. You are sitting on the router table, so my router bits are right here. I can just grab the bits that I want. And oh, what are they? Oh, the Craig. I don't use them, the Craig height adjusters. Now the reason I don't use them, I thought I was getting a metric set, but apparently they don't come in metric. They're only in 1/2 inch, 7/16, 3/8, etc. That's gobbledygook to me. 3.313 of an inch, 5/16. What the hell's? I don't even know what an inch is. What's an inch? It's 2.5 or 25 millimeters or something, isn't it? That's all gobbledygook. So I don't use these. Craig, make a metric set. Above that is my trim router, the AEG 18 volt trim router, and the pump, the miter saw. It hasn't changed. It actually hasn't even changed positions. It's exactly where it was originally. I've got it now working pretty well. I've still got the two wee shelf units I made that hang off the stand for it. Underneath it I've got the small offcut bin. I go through it every now and again. There'll be bits and pieces in there that I can still use, but eventually most of it gets thrown out. So above the miter saw, my plastic welder and all the bits, I'm going to redesign that now, because now that I've got it hanging up there, I don't know how I'm going to do it yet, but when it's hanging up there, they fall off. Originally it was designed to go onto a shelf. The remaining nail guns, that's the two Hitachi ones, framing nailer, DA and brad nailer. The two AEG ones, the C-Series brad nailer and the DA brad nailer. So just below the miter saw, I've got a offcut bin and the dedicated dust extractor for it. Now I say dedicated, it is now dedicated. It didn't used to be. It used to be plugged into the table saw or the miter saw. However, I'm now making it dedicated, and I'm going to make a blast gate system for it because of the TV being so close in proximity, trying to control the dust a little bit more than I really used to worry about. The Bosch glide saws okay for a Mitosaur's dust collection. No Mitosaur is any good at dust collection. And I say okay, knowing that it could be better, and I've seen people make fittings for them, and some of them are actually selling them, and I might actually buy one just to see if it helps it. Continuing our journey forward, there is the jointer and pathway, just so you've got your bearings. Wood storage, yay, wood storage. That hasn't changed, it's exactly the same as it was last video. Only difference is there's more wood there, and it's now down on the floor as ground as well. Remember when I was talking about the lathe? Some people are not going to like it, but there is the wood turning lathe. However, I'm trying to work out a way where it kind of folds up and out of the way. I've got really no more space for it until I finish the junk corner, which I haven't even started yet. So I'm kind of thinking of taking the extension bed off it, because it is actually only a MIDI lathe. Taking the extension bed off it and kind of have it lowering down or hoisting up out of the way on a hoist, but then trying to make it stable and all the rest of it. I'm locking it in somehow. I don't know yet. It's being stored there. Whether I sell it or not, I don't know. I don't want to. I don't do a lot of wood turning, actually, to be fair and honest. The joys of a small workshop. But it is what it is. Round to the table saw, the next bay over, between the house piles. It is a tool shed table saw. It's a contractor saw. It's an OK saw. I've upgraded it with a few things on it to make it a workable solution for me. The one thing I don't like about it is the riving knife. The riving knife is attached to the guard, and it attaches into behind the saw, and part of it goes into below the insert. Therefore it's a static riving knife. It doesn't raise up and down with the blade. The upgrades I've done is I've got the anchor sled and miter gauge, which I love, and I've got a new upgraded fence system. Because I broke the original one, I actually broke it while I was filming something. I broke the handle, and because I'm up on a hill, the outfeed table is actually physically attached and built off the table saw, and I have some steel struts going into the dirt. So as you can see, it's actually physically built off the table saw, and then at the back there some stainless steel rods going into the dirt to actually hold up the back. In behind the table saw you can see there's more wood storage up there, the longer bits being stored. There is a reason why it's one end is lower than the other. I can't remember what it was, but there's a reason why I did that originally. I think it was a piece of wood that it was hanging that was originally up there. I had to make that end lower, and I've just never really gotten around to going, I no longer require it like that to be like that, and it's just stayed like that. Right, moving around to the final part. I don't really want to show you this part, really, but I'm going to. The junk corner. Dun 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 dun! The junk corner. It's mainly up in there is mainly plywood and MDF. That's all I can say about that. It is mainly plywood and MDF. Although I do have this big huge chunk of totara. Or no, macrocarpa. Or totara, one or the other. That is the area that I need to get rid of all that, store it somewhere, dig out the floor, put a floor down, whether it's a floating wooden floor or a concrete floor, bring some power over it, bring some lights over, put some cladding up, and have another space. Simple. However, at the moment, it is also storing my chainsaw, the weed whacker, and on the back of the door, the hedge clippers and first aid kit. I do want to move the first aid kit. I'm just not sure where I want to move it to make it easier access. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. And remember to click the notification bell icon. That way you'll be notified when I upload a new video. You can find us on most social media, including Google+,
Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, and Instagram. Please also consider supporting me on Patreon. See you next time.
Don't forget to go and make something.